Righty. Thank you to those that are just joining us this morning. We'll give everyone about 5 minutes or so to kind of shuffle in and get everyone kind of ready. You could please tell us in the chat box where you're joining us from and what grades you teach. And if you have any questions beforehand that you would like to ask our founder, you can go ahead and pop those in the Q&A box. Other than that, we look forward to get starting with you here soon. Thank you to everyone that is piling in right now for our last hour of code event for the week. If you haven't done so already, please share with us where you're joining us from, as well as what grades you teach or you're currently with right now. And if you have any questions beforehand, you go ahead and throw those in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll get started here in just a few minutes, honoring everyone and being able to give some time for everyone to shuffle in. Sarah, that's a great question, and we'll go ahead and save that one towards the end. So thank you so much for sharing that question with us. All right, we're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. I know there's been some people having a bit of trouble. Just please remember that you can also join us on any of our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. This event is also being live streamed there. So if you haven't done so, please go ahead and pop in the chat box where you're joining us from, and we'll get started in 2 minutes. All righty, we are going to go ahead and get started. If you are having any issues logging in, please make sure to refer everyone to our social media streams as well on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All right, thank you so much for joining us for our last webinar of the 2021 Hour of Code CSed week. We are so excited to have you here. And if you haven't joined us on our other events this week, Monday we had a Women in STEM panel. Tuesday yesterday we had a live coding class with our other founder. And that was about text-based coding. And today is going to be about our newest course, Block Jumper. So thank you so much. And as you guys know, this is our favorite event of the year. It's our time to share with you how much we love computer science and get to share that with your students as well. So we are so appreciative that you're taking the time out of your day to spend it with us and your students, because we know that there are a ton of choices during this Hour of Code week. So we feel extra special that you're spending your time with us. If you're catching this at a later date or you're watching this on any of our live streams, please feel free to throw those questions into the chat box. And we just want to thank you if you're watching this now or if you're watching this later, and just know how much we do appreciate you and your time. Please do follow us on all of our social media channels. Just like today, we'll live stream our webinar sessions and share different events. It's a way to keep up to date with everything, as well as to follow up on any edtech news and content that we share along the way as well. So today's session is an hour of code with our founder, Ido Schor. So he'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. And so we'll be going over our Blocks Jumper course. So let's just talk about the backstory, and the reason why you're here is about CodeMonkey. In 2014, CodeMonkey's Ido and his brother Jonathan Schor launched CodeMonkey after working with kids and just seeing how much better they grasped the coding concepts when it was presented in a more fun and gamified way. The days of the boring programming ways are a way of the past, and this is a way to introduce students to those fun and gamified adventures and make it feel like a game rather than the old school methods of learning how to code. And so today, CodeMonkey is a leading, fun, and intuitive curriculum. We do have international users. We have users in almost every country, where students do learn to code in real programming languages. So before getting started, we do always like to share with you who you're actually meeting today and who you're going to be seeing. And so to kick that off, my name is Lena Saleh. I've met you hopefully over the last few days during this event. And I am the professional development and sales manager here at CodeMonkey and usually help organize these types of events. So you'll probably see me quite a bit. Today, we also have joining with us Brett Eskelson. He is the VP of US Sales. So that means that when your teachers are looking for new programs to bring to you, then he's the one who's leading the team to help get those tools to each one of you and to your teachers. And then we also have Maya. She is new to the CodeMonkey team, and we're lucky to have her. And she is our customer success manager. And a customer success manager just means that they help the customers have the best success using the product. So if your teachers run into issues, or maybe you need help with setup, she is there to help you. So you'll see her face a lot as well. Now, without further ado, we want to introduce you to the superstar of today's event, and that is our founder and CTO, Ido Schor.
Hi, Lena.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna dive. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you before we jump to this next part?
Sure. I'm Ido. I live in Tel Aviv, 34 years old, and yeah, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at CodeMonkey. Besides that, I like playing my guitar and playing Ultimate Frisbee. So yeah, that's it about me.
And you don't see right now because we have these fun backgrounds for the hour of code, but he actually is quite the musician and has quite a lot of instruments behind him. So, you know, it's a nice fact about him. Fun fact. So today during our webinar, we're going to do an intro. We discuss a little bit about what CodeMonkey is. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into who Ido is and what he does. And then talk about how CodeMonkey got started. Then he's going to lead a coding class specifically for you on our new Blocks Jumper course. And Ido's team especially leads these efforts with all of these courses. So you're having a really extra special taste of what it looks like and what it feels like to be part of us. And then we will have open Q&A with Ido, and taking some of those questions from pre-registration, as well as any questions that have been popped in the chat box or in the Q&A. So we are going to start off today's event with doing a little bit of an interview type of session with Ido. So as the CTO, which he mentioned earlier was the Chief Technology Officer, tell us a bit about kind of your role and what you do at CodeMonkey and exactly what is a CTO.
Okay, so I guess CTO would mean different things at different types of companies. CodeMonkey's product is well, a technological product. It's an application or a website. So as CTO, I manage building of the product, maintaining the product, which means I have a team of developers, product managers. Part of the product is also the curriculum, so that's also under my responsibility. Yes, so I just manage a bunch of people who make everything that reaches the user or customer, whether it be a student or a teacher, playing or learning or managing a classroom. So all those things.
So everything that you see and do on CodeMonkey is developed by Ido and his team. And so he has a really big job, probably the most important job out of all of us, making sure that everything works and is fun for all of you as well. So a question, we've got a couple of these in the registration as well, but since you are the CTO of CodeMonkey, what is something that you look for when you do hire a programmer or somebody to work at CodeMonkey?
So that's a good question. I would say the biggest part of the interview process is revolves around communication. So just being good technically and be able to produce code on yourself is just is not enough in when working in a team. So a big part of the process is communicating with the candidate about how they made how did they make their choices when they like solve a certain problem in computer science, and see how well they are able to give feedback on other people's codes and receive feedback on their own code. So all that around communicating clearly and respectfully is very important.
And I think that that's an important thing that we see across all places, is being able to take feedback and knowing that the feedback isn't meant to tear you down, but to actually make you better. And so, you know, feedback goes both ways. So I think that's important that you mentioned that. So we sort of touched on this a little bit there, but if you weren't a programmer, what career path would you have likely followed?
Yeah, so as a teenager, I actually spent probably most of the time with my guitar. So there was a time when I thought about music as a career path. That didn't work out. Or actually, I guess I chose computer programming over music. I'm glad I did. It ended up pretty well. I'm happy at my current role, and I still get to do some music on my spare time.
Which I think is great. And we're also very lucky that you chose this career path as well, because we wouldn't all be here if it weren't for you. So in honor of our CodeMonkey competition that we have going on right now, students, you can create a drawing, and we're going to take those drawings and turn them into avatars that will come into the product as well. So which CodeMonkey avatar do you use on CodeMonkey?
So actually I have a few accounts, because I guess anyone who works at on the product needs to have a few accounts as like their main account, and the account they test like teacher features and student features. So I have a few avatars, but on my main account I use the bear. It's just I don't know, I like him best.
Mm-hmm. I also love him in the Beaver Achiever course. He's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm just basic. I just choose the girl with the blonde hair, that's on all of my accounts. So
that's a good choice. Yeah.
Okay. So we asked Jonathan this yesterday as well, but we wanted to ask you, what was the first programming language that you learned?
So the very first one, I was pretty young, might have been 10 or a little older. It was Flash. Yeah, that's it. Adobe Flash. It wasn't a programming language, but it had a programming language in it. It was a studio for creating games and videos. So I just messed around in there a little bit, creating small little things that required some programming. That's my very first programming experience.
And what did you make here? It was
This was like a small video, I think. I also made at least one small game. It wasn't as easy as it was today. Like you had to have it installed in your computer, then you had to export it and find a way to send it somehow, but you could only send like 3 megabytes in an email. And I don't know, I don't remember how I got it working, but I could send it to other computers somehow.
Yeah, it was you guys are lucky now, because things are much easier when you can just use the web-based version of creating things and having to download it and then wait. And sometimes it'd be out of date, right? And it would be, be challenging.
Yeah, many things have gotten simpler in the last 20 years. Some things in technology actually became more complicated.
I would agree with that 100%. So this is another, I just threw this one. This isn't Ido specifically, but this is one that he saved for when he was younger. But basically there's lots of things that you could do with Flash. A lot of people made like racing games and different things like that. And you could still use Flash today, right? Flash programming?
You probably wouldn't want to. It's kind of a dead technology. You used to have it in browsers, but now browsers don't support Flash anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was fun. It was a fun time.
I think I also did when I started taught kids how to do some like Flash things too. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for this mini intro interview part with Ido. And I see lots of you are asking some really amazing questions. So we'll be saving those to the end. Now we're going to do our lesson time. So the first thing first that we want to talk about is we're going to be doing our blocks jumper course. And yesterday we talked about text-based coding, but let's talk about what is block-based coding.
Yes. So as this lovely animation shows, this is block-based coding. Block-based coding is when you create a code, like an algorithm, like basically anything, any type of code, but you don't use your keyboard to type in text. You just drag and drop blocks that connect to each other to express the program. So block-based coding is, in like, I guess 99% of the cases, an educational tool. Like when you develop for as your day job, in most cases you won't use block-based code unless it's like very specific tools. But the benefits of block-based coding is it has a lower entry level. Many mistakes that are hard to overcome in text-based coding simply cannot be made when doing block-based coding, because the blocks prevent you from doing type of things that don't make sense. So I'll explain a little bit more during the lesson what this means.
Exactly. So things like, well, I'll let you take that away. So before we dive and you take over with teaching us all about the Blocks Jumper course, can you tell us a bit about what exactly is Blocks Jumper?
So Blocks Jumper is a mini course that we made. So it's based on our game builder platform, which we've had probably since I think we've had the game builder platform where anyone can create a game and share it and remix it. We've had it, I think, since 2015, but for many years it was it used text-based coding. So about I think maybe 9 months ago, we also added the option to create games using block-based coding. We wanted to have this platform available to more coders, and coders who are also more familiar with block-based coding. And we didn't want it to just put it out there and let everyone figure it out by their own. So we made this mini course that walks you through some of the basics of building games in the game builder platform with blocks. So this is a small course that we released also as part of the Hour of Code Week. And yeah, we hope many kids will give it a try.
Too, and we have we're featured on the code.org page for this Block Jumper course, so be sure to check it out there, or you can check it out. We'll throw in the links for how you can connect with this Block Jumpers course. Ido and I talked a bit offline about this, and I work at CodeMonkey, so I know a bit about this, but so he talked about why they created the Block Jumper course, but I just wanted to briefly mention that usually when a course is being created, you'd have to do some kind of storyboarding or kind of figuring out kind of how the course is created itself. So Ido will sit down with his content developer and his team and the product manager of this, and they'll kind of come up with where do they want it to go and what types of concepts will happen for each of the challenge. So it doesn't look exactly like this right here, but that's usually the process. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We usually go in these type of courses, or like any course, we like figure out what do we want the student to be able to make or learn by the end, and then we try to like see like kind of like chop up things that aren't necessary. Like, okay, this game would be cool with X, Y, and Z, but I know Z isn't important enough and it's complicated. So we chop it down to like a simple version, and then we walk backwards and say, okay, this is going to be like the linear path where you're going to advance a little bit, exercise after exercise until you reach the final goal.
Yeah, which I think is great insight. As teachers, that's what we do also regularly when we want to see what the students need to know, and we work backwards that way. And so I think it's really neat to see how those kind of two tie together. So now we are going to get coding, which everyone's been waiting for this moment. So now I'm going to let Ido take over, and he's going to introduce this Block Jumper course and do this with you. So feel free to pop those questions still in the chat box.
Okay, so I'm not seeing the chat. So Lena, if you see like a good question, then feel free to let me know and I'll stop and answer it. So it won't just be me talking for 30 minutes.
Okay.
Also, if you have any questions, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so the Blocks Jumper mini course. This course is split into exercises, so 10 exercises. And by the end of the course, we're going to have a game that looks kind of like this GIF here. Is it GIF or GIF? How do you pronounce that?
I think I'm not the best person to say what that is because I can never say it. So I just call
Let
it
us
an
know
animated
in
image.
the chat box. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, tell us how you guys pronounce that image there.
Okay. So the game builder platform is everything. Here you see the game area and different configurations and the code that you write. And on the left, we have instructions for that we follow, and that way we'll end up with a small game. All right, let's read. In this mini course, we'll create a game where the player taps or clicks the screen to make a monkey jump over gaps until it reaches a star. The step block makes a sprite move. In this example, it makes the monkey move. The number in the step block defines how far the sprite moves. So this is a code example, and we're going to write some code here under the monkey tab. So the monkey is one of the sprites we have in this game, where sprites are just these objects that have an image. So right now we have two sprites, a monkey and a star. So let's stay on the monkey and see what we need to do. Drag a step block from the movement library, connect it to the onRun block. So I see I already have an onRun block. It's always going to be here. I'm going to find the movement library. I'm going to drag step and connect it. So remember when I said block-based coding can be a little easier than text-based coding. So if I don't connect it, I see this doesn't make any sense. A step on its own is not something the computer can understand and know what to do with. But when it's connected, you can see it has a nice color, and I see, okay, I wrote a valid program. Let's check that this is okay. Yep, this is okay. Change 1 to 300 in the step block. Okay, I'm gonna use my keyboard to type 300. Click on run and see if the monkey reaches the star. Okay, I have the run button here. Okay, I did it.
When you go from 1 to 300, what is the difference between that? Is it moving? How do we know how far? Obviously, we know it moves to 300, but what does that mean?
That's a great question. So you could say it's pixels, but if you want to know how much it is, you can see when I have my cursor over the game area, I can see that these numbers on the side. So, and we use these position numbers in a bunch of places in the game builder. Right now I see the monkey is has its X value at around 50, and X is the horizontal axis. So if I move my cursor to the right, I see the X value changing. And if I go to, like, let's say this is 50, this is 350. So I guess 300 is this area. Yeah.
Okay, so it's moving, it's using the XY coordinates to move. And so when you move 1, it's just moving one little coordinate to the right. And when you move 300, it's moving on the number line 300.
Yeah, so 300 in this case is half the screen, half the game screen. Okay, so we did something very simple, but let's get into real coding. A loop block repeats the blocks inside it for as long as the game runs. For example, on run loop, step 1. This code makes the sprite step to the right over and over again until the game is over. Okay, let's do this. Drag a loop block from the control library. I have the control library and drag a loop block. Okay, I did that correctly. Drag a step block from the movement library. Place it inside of the loop block. Click on run and see if the monkey reaches a star. Okay, that worked. That looks kind of the same, but it's different. Before that, we had step 300, and that did something once. Now we have a program that does something, well, you could say forever. Nothing is forever, but in coding,
That's why his legs are
loop
still
block is
moving.
forever. Pardon?
That's why his legs are still moving.
Yeah, that's right. Before that, the monkey eventually stopped. Like 300 is a large number, but it's ends sometimes, but a loop is forever in programming terms. Okay, now we collide. So this games need some stuff to happen with them, like the different objects interact. So I'm going to talk a little bit about interaction between objects in the game. The onCollide block is called when two sprites collide. The argument defines the other sprite in the collision. So what is other sprite? Actually, when I'm here at the stars code, onCollide refers to the star. So it's telling the program or the computer when the star collides with. So the other sprite is the monkey. So it's when you're coding, always notice, and coding in the game builder, always notice what is the context you're writing your code in, because it's different between whether you're writing inside the monkey's code or the stars code or any other sprites code. Okay, sounds are added to the game from the sounds tab. The play sound block plays the sound. The destroy block deletes the sprite from the game. Add a sound by clicking on the green plus button, name it win. So this was open here. I'm going to choose a sound that sounds like winning. Okay, this is pretty good. I'm going to name it, use my keyboard to type in win. Let's solve this exercise. Now let's do something with this sound. Choose the star sprite from the sprites tab. Okay, I'm at the star sprite. Drag a play sound block from the game and sounds library. Place it inside the onCollide block. Play sound. Okay, drag a destroy block from the display library. Place it inside the onCollide block. Okay, so display, and we want the destroy. So let's read the code we wrote here. I'm in the stars tab, so star, when you collide with the monkey, I want you, the star, to play the sound win, and I want you to, well, be destroyed. Sorry, star. Okay, let's see this if this is working. Okay, so the star is our goal, and when we reach it, we want it to be removed from the game, actually destroyed. Click on run and see if the monkey reaches the star. Listen to the sound played and notice the star is no longer in the game after the monkey collides with it. Okay, it worked. It played the sound I chose and the star is no longer in the game. It was destroyed. And beside being no longer in the game, that nothing that is inside its code here is gonna, like stuff like onCollide, not going to happen again, because something that's not in the game cannot collide with anything else either.
So if you have multiple stars, then in each star, they would need to have an onCollide in each one individually.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's add sprites. Sprites are added from the Sprites tab by clicking on the green plus button, choosing an image, and clicking on the add button. Sprites properties can be updated from the settings icon. Properties include position, X and Y, so we talked about that a little bit before, affected by gravity and immovable. So I'm gonna do a little demonstration about these two. But first, let's add a sprite. So in the actual game builder platform, there are many more sprites to choose from. But because we're building this very specific game, we want you to stay focused. So we only give you these two sprites that you're going to use. Okay, I added the star. I'm going to change the star's X value to 500. So I could drag it around, but I can also go into the settings, and I have this X here. I'm going to type in 500. Okay, now it's exactly where I want it to be. Uncheck the allow gravity option. Okay, so this is something I can only do from here, but that's going to demonstrate what it actually does. So if this is checked and I run the game, the star falls down. But if this is unchecked, the star stays in place. So it actually means, do I allow gravity to affect this sprite? And sorry, that's my dog in the background. Check the immovable option. Set it from the settings icon. Okay. Immovable. So let's demonstrate what this means. When something is immovable, things that collide with it can't move it. But when something is not immovable or movable, things that collide with it do affect its position and it moves around. So we want it immovable. Okay, we just want it to be set in one place all the time. We don't want it to move around. Drag an uncollide block from the events library. Okay, so I have the events library and I want uncollide. Okay, that worked. Now, when the star is going to collide with the monkey, I'm going to place it. I'm going to place a face sound block. Let's do that. Now I'm going to place a destroy block. Okay, so we have a little program here. Good.
If you named play sound something different than win, would it change anything?
Let's see. So right now I actually can't. I only have one sound, so I can only choose win. If I had more sounds and I would choose something else, it would play a different sound. Yeah, this is another thing where block-based coding can help you out. In normal coding, you'd have to remember what name you gave to something, and in certain programming languages, you'd have to remember that that something is a sound. So block-based coding kind of limits you to only things that are relevant to your current programming. So you can only do win because that's the only sound you have here. And if I have another sound, like my sound, should be able to choose a different sound that might sound different.
And also something to know about block-based versus text-based is it's hard to make a mistake with capitalization because you don't have to worry so much about, even if you spelled win wrong when you added the sound, it's not going to change anything. Whereas if you spelled win wrong when doing text-based coding, then it would mess it up. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That's a good example of like typing something and you read it out and it looks fine. But in text-based coding, you got to be really, really accurate. Yeah, and there are ways to improve in like being accurate, and as long as you keep at it, then it becomes easier and easier. But block-based coding kind of takes off all that difficulty away. Yeah, so it's a good way to learn, especially if you're like new to typing. So that's a big thing. Okay, next up. From the game tab, you can change some of the game's properties. For example, world size, which sprite the camera should follow, game gravity. After making the game world bigger, click on the drag icon in the top right corner. So this right here. To scroll and move around the game screen, click on the arrow icon to switch back. Tiles can be used to draw the game world. So right now you can see the monkey standing on bricks. So each small brick is a tile. This is like a game design term. Click on the paintbrush to add tiles, or click on the eraser to delete them. Okay, so let's try it out. Change the world's width to 1200. So I have this option here, world width. Okay, so now the world where this monkey lives in is a little bigger. Click on run and notice the monkey disappears after walking across the screen. Let's see that. Okay, I no longer see the monkey. Click on stop. So that's a good, that will explain a good distinction between the game world and the game screen, where you can, like, what part of the game world you can actually see. So sometimes, like many games, many things can happen and you just don't see them, but in the game world, they happen. So we want to keep following the monkey. So let's set the camera target to monkey. So we have another setting here. Okay, that worked. You see this little camera icon now above the monkey sprite. I'm gonna click run again. Okay, so right now the camera moves along and follows the monkey, and we can see that before the game's world's width was 600, and now it's double that. So, but eventually it ends. So now the monkey reached 1200 and can no longer step beyond the dimensions of the world in its little game. Let's click stop. Okay, drag the game to see the rest of the game area. Okay, I know how to do this. Add tiles to make a path to the star. So we do want to reach the star, so let's do this. Click on the paintbrush to add tiles. Click on the desired tile and then click on the game screen to edit. Click on the eraser to delete tiles. So after I choose the paintbrush, I can choose which kind of tile I'm going to place. I can put a few different kinds. Okay, I made a colorful bridge. Click on run and see that the monkey reaches the star. All right, that worked.
This one will be our last challenge before we take some time for Q&A. Somebody did ask this question, and I hope that maybe you can be able to answer it. So these blocks do have their own language. Is it based on something specific when you create these blocks? Is it something like Blockly? What language are the blocks?
So Blockly is all the user interface. So Blockly, we didn't build the user interface from scratch. We use Blockly, which is a open source program. What happens under the hood? Well, there are many things that happen under the hood, but eventually it does translate the code in Blockly to CoffeeScript, which is the language, the text-based coding language that we normally use or traditionally have used in a game builder. So like we had something that worked with text-based coding, so we made like an extra layer over that of blocks, and then these blocks turn into CoffeeScript, and we had that working already. So that's a little
fun fact.
Fun fact, how it works under the hood. And that's something that's happens a lot in coding and computer science. If you have something that works and you want to make, and so you can use it in different ways, and you can expand upon it. And you have a big problem, you can break it down to smaller problems, and use the solutions that you already have for multiple things. So yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so last exercise for me, but there are more fun exercises up ahead. And after a few short ones, there's a small game that you can play. So let's do this one. Set speed block changes the sprite speed. 1 is the default speed. A number larger than 1 is faster, and a number between 0 and 1 is slower. Here's a little coding example on run set speed to 1.4. And this is again an example of like set whose speed. So you need to look at the context you're writing the code in. So if we're going to write set speed inside the monkey's code area, it's going to set the monkey speed. Drag a set speed block from the movement library, connect it to the onRun block. Where is it? It's all the way over here.
What do we call those at the bottom? These like where it says movement and events, are those called libraries?
Yeah, we call them libraries.
Okay.
The block must be before the loop block. If it was after the loop block, actually it can't be, but loop happens forever. So we want this to happen sometimes. We don't want it to happen after forever, which is never. So we're going to place it before the loop block. Change 1 to 0.5. I'm going to use my keyboard again. I'm going to type in. Let's right click on run and see if the monkey moves really slow. Okay, it is walking slowly. I'm going to make him step a little bit faster. Let's see. Okay. Okay, that worked, and that's an important part of game development. Finding out like what's the right speed and what's the right speed and height. So it's not always about the algorithm, but about the like different small numbers that make up the game fun.
So earlier you mentioned about why we set the set speed first and not in the loop block. So if the set speed was in the loop block, then every time his speed would, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the computer scientist. If I put the set speed inside of the loop, does that mean that every single time it goes back through the loop that it's going to increase by that much?
So it won't increase because set speed is like, it means, I guess you could read this as like, I don't know, 1.4 miles per hour. So if you were driving 1.4 miles per hour and I told you, okay, but now drive 1.4 miles per hour, you just say, okay, so do nothing, like just keep the same speed. So you could think about that as the same way. So like, this would happen, but won't change anything because it already happened in the previous loop's iteration. So you won't notice anything happen, but the computer will do something, although it will be meaningless. Like I would tell you, change your name to Lena, right? You would say, okay, sure. But you could say done, although, yeah. So, yeah.
This question comes from a student in Miss Diaz's class. Her name is Allie, and she wanted to know how you know what position is X and which position is Y.
So this game has 2 dimensions. If you know, like games that sometimes have 3 dimensions, this game is 2 dimension. And I'll try to explain what that actually means. There's the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, and the numbers, the X numbers are referring to the horizontal axis. So let's move the monkey to the right. We'll change the X value. Okay, we're typing 200. You see the monkey only moves right or left, it doesn't move up or down. But then there's the y-axis, and the y-axis actually means the vertical axis. And when we change numbers in the y-axis, the monkey moves up or down. So this is 30, and as it grows, the monkey is actually lower. Because if you look at the cursor and you try to follow like where the cursor is and what the numbers are, you can see that the small numbers are in this corner. And when you move right and down, both the numbers increase. So I hope that answered the question. But axes are a difficult topic to wrap your hand around sometimes.
Yeah, and they look just like when you're doing math and you're doing coordinates and you're trying to find where the XY coordinate is. That's exactly how this is set up, but you can't see it like you would on a regular grid, but it has the same, same concept.
But in the game builder, you can move your cursor and you can see in the top left corner the values. And also when you move around in the game world, then it doesn't end. This is all these coordinates about the game world. So if your game is bigger than 600, you can see the X value is also bigger than 600.
That was a great answer and a great question, Ali. Thank you so much for sending that question along. So I know we have just about 8 minutes till we wrap up today's webinar. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that actually came from our audience, if you don't mind. Actually questions that came up while you were talking a bit about the platform. So if you guys have questions about the game builder itself or anything that Ido just covered, feel free to chat those in the chat box or in the Q&A box. A question that I'll just answer that's not directly for you, Ido, was, do you need a subscription to play the Block Jumper course? You do not. Block Jumper course is our Hour of Code course. And so there's 10 challenges. As you can see, exercise, there's 6 of 10. So there's 10 there. So you guys can play that anytime on your own. So feel free to check those out as well. A next question was, what coding languages do you use to build CodeMonkey?
That's a good question. So we use a few programming languages, and the reason is whenever you build anything on the web, you have to use JavaScript. So JavaScript is the only language that browsers understand. So we use JavaScript for everything that's happening inside the browser. We also use some CoffeeScript sometimes, which is a language that is like a sister language to JavaScript. It looks like JavaScript, looks a little bit better, sometimes easier to work with, and it actually ends up being JavaScript. And that's everything that's happened inside the browser, but there are many, many things that happen on different computers, which are called servers. And servers do stuff like find your user when you log in and tell you, okay, we recognize you, and this is your progress, or this is the next course that you're working on, or this is your classroom, Mr. Teacher. So everything around that, we use a language called Ruby, and which is a nice little language that I personally like. Also, we use something that is called a framework, which is framework is kind of like this game builder where you have the code, but you also have lots of little things that guide you along and help you to arrange your code. Like here, when you have different sprites and they're arranged into different different codes that are arranged into different sprites. So the framework we use is called Ruby on Rails, and yeah, that's it.
I think that's great. I think that's exactly what they were hoping to hear. So I think that's great. And then I know other questions were about our website. So CodeMonkey, the platform where you do all of your coding courses, is different than our website. So we have two different places, if that makes sense. So our website is done by our marketing team typically, and then we have our CodeMonkey where you do all of your coding, and that lives in a different think about it like a different location.
Right.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sometimes when you do the web pages themselves, you don't necessarily have to be a super, super strong coder. The websites have a lot of things built into them now that help assist you. So Ido spends most of his time doing the game and developing the courses rather than spending so much time doing the website itself.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we don't have to bother him when we need to make a few small changes. Okay. So Ido, if you don't mind, I'm going to take over screen sharing.
Go ahead.
All right. And we have a couple more questions. So you guys keep those questions coming. They're really great. And we are happy to hear from you. So this question comes from Miss Berg. She teaches 4th grade at Longsfield Elementary. She says, my students love gaming and many would love the opportunity to get a job doing game development or game design. What types of jobs? I think more so around this question is, what do you need to have, or what kinds of coding skills should you have to get a job in gaming?
So that's a good question. I guess game development actually has many aspects to it. So there are many jobs in game development that don't require coding. Like you have illustrators and you have sound designers, and you have like game designers, like people who just work on how the game feels, or like where our things are in the game. But definitely a major part of every game development team would be the game developers. Yes, who are mostly coders. Yeah, though it's I guess game development is like it's like its own niche in computer programming, and if someone like knows they're really into that, then it's like a direction in coding that you can start learning more seriously pretty early on in your programming education. Because if I mention like web development, which is what I mostly do, which is dealing like with databases and like server architecture, managing information and stuff like that, then many of these things aren't very relevant for game development, which is like a different kind of coding. It all has the basic, like everyone has to learn, and that's what we do in CodeMonkey. Also, I believe if you're a designer and if you're working a field that's adjacent to technology, you got to understand what a loop is and what this program is, what a condition is. Yeah, but beyond that, like game development programming is pretty different than like other types of programming.
Really, really complex. And I think what Ido broke down was really great, is that he does a lot of like web development. You do see game design. There is game design pieces, but it's not as even his team has a lot of things that they have. The content developer, which if you watched Monday's webinar, she creates the content. So what's going to go into the challenges? How does she want them to be solved? Then the team has the challenges that they create and code on the back end. And then we also have a person who does like the graphics. So who's actually designing or animating the course as it goes through. So even just in our web-based version of the game design, it's pretty complex itself too, but you can start taking things and start doing things like our block jumper and our game builder courses and see if you like those, and then start pursuing pathways that way.
Yeah, that's I think that's what's nice about the game builder. You can really, as a low level of entry, and you can do some drawing, do some, I guess, choose sounds and do some a little bit of programming. And yeah, I guess you're going to be pulled in whatever direction that fascinates you the most.
Exactly. The next question here we have from Miss Lackfold, excuse me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. 4th grade at WHAM. What inspired you to create this program?
So if you're talking about this blocks jumper, I could answer about blocks jumper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in blocks jumper, we, as I mentioned before, we wanted to bring game builder to more kids. So we have this Discover platform where we see like these amazing creation kids do on the game builder, and we wanted to expand upon that. So we knew many more kids will be interested in game creation if we added blocks coding. So that was the motivation for adding blocks to the game builder. And then we wanted to accompany that with this course, just to demonstrate like what you can do and lead you through creating like this very small game. Yeah, that was the inspiration for blocks jumper. Yeah.
We love it, and we're excited that we have this addition to it. And I think that I learned a lot. So I hope that the students and teachers learned a lot from you when you were leading that as well. So this comes from Miss Lewis. She teaches 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And sorry, Miss Lewis, I'm not sure where you're joining us from, but why do you believe your product is better than other coding programs around? I'm gonna let Ido answer, but I'm also gonna answer this question because I taught in the classroom too. What I love most about CodeMonkey is that I love that there are solutions and things for teachers. There's really great lesson plans, but what I believe most is that everything is very scaffolded. So as you could see when Ido was walking through, there wasn't like, you're not moving from one really abstract concept. Everything is really well built. And I just felt like my students got a much better grasp and understanding of the concept. So I hope you also agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I would add that when we're working on CodeMonkey courses, we always have like these two things that pull us. We want them to be fun, and we want them to be pedagogical and coherent. Yeah, and every step of the way, we stop and ask ourselves: did we explain it well enough? We second guess ourselves, and did we make it engaging enough? So yeah, that's I hope eventually the students and teachers feel that effort.
Yeah. And there's a lot of passion there, if you can't tell, from everyone on our team is very passionate about the work that we do. So we hope that that comes through to you as well. This is going to be we'll take one more question right after this, and then we'll be closing out because we are right at our time today. And we also want to honor Ido's time. As he mentioned, he's joining from Israel, so it's quite late there. So we need to make sure we also honor his time as well as yours. This is from Miss Chamber. She's at Benwood Elementary with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. What is the best advice you have for somebody that wants to have a career in CS?
That's a good question. I guess I would say the best way to learn is well, CodeMonkey, obviously. But if you want to pursue like a career, just looking at stuff that you use every day and think about how were they made. Like use this app, I use this, I use email, I use chat. Like how was this made and can I make it myself? And search it online and search for tutorials and just don't look at stuff like, okay, this is I don't know, chat, this is too complicated and it's a mystery. No, everything was built by human beings, and be with that attitude, that curious attitude, and just try to build stuff yourself, and you learn along the way.
I think that's great feedback, because we had a couple of questions about what types of education do you have to become a computer scientist. But I think that what you're saying is that there's lots of tools that we have available to you right now without even having to go straight to college if you're younger, that you can just try it out yourself.
Right.
I think that's great. Low risk, when you're there. Okay, so the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Wow, that's a tough question.
They have some tough ones over here.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, buy Bitcoin or something, no?
Invest when you can. No, just joking.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but I guess just what I said now, like I ended up like I'm pursuing a career I'm interested in, and I like what I do. And although we showed like stuff I did when I was younger, then like most of my teenage years, I wasn't my most like my strongest passion, computer science. And I think when you had that women in STEM session, it was also from our other developers. It's okay to like pursue what you're interested in right now, and even like if you don't think about it as a long-term career, just be curious, and yeah, things will work out.
Yeah, and I think what we can take away from all 3 days of our events is that just try. I think that worst thing is if you don't try something. Take a no thank you taste is what we like to say. And I think that's something to kind of keep in mind with coding or any passion that you have. And I think Ido mentioned, he's really into the music scene when he was younger and different things like that. But music and coding actually tie pretty well to each other with just the different skills that you have. So I think Ido had some amazing feedback and answered your questions so well. And we really, really appreciate both his time and your time for spending that with us today. We hope that you took something away from this Hour of Code event. And remember that Hour of Code doesn't have to be just an hour, that you can really take this And we hope that you take and feel the passion that we have for computer science, bring it to your students and bring that to your students as well. So again, thank you so much to Ido, all of those people that are joining us live, who will watch this later, and all of you students who are taking the time to spend an hour of code with us. We thank you so much. And as always, don't forget to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. We'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody.